Good morning, fantasy football fans. My name is Gary, a.k.a. the IDP Tipster. I am here this morning doing my IDP dime drop breakouts for 2021 on the defensive side of the ball. It's an annual thing I do. I'm a little late in the season, possibly, but I'm doing it today, the day of the draft. Now, we do know that situations can change, but I'm fairly confident after looking things over that these guys should still be secure after the draft, and barring a high draft pick by their respected teams. I want everybody to understand these are the deep of deeper breakout calls. These are not just flyers or sleepers. These are deep guys. So it's kind of what I do. It's what I've been known for over the years. And I have a pretty good hit rate on this. So I'm fairly confident that these guys are going to produce more than they have in the past. And I'll hit on each one as we go. So I'm going to start off with Brandon Jones of the Miami Dolphins. He's a second-year strong safety. And he played 37% of the snaps last year. He made a play every 5.5 plays that he was on. So he made a play every fifth 5.5 plays he played. There you go. And he played special teams 53%. So we do know that some of those numbers, he has like 62 combined tackles. Some of those numbers would have went to special teams. But that's a give or take by a hair. Maybe we're looking at him making more of a play every sixth play. On the field, he was actually graded better than Eric Rowe, his counterpart at strong safety. Eric Rowe actually pretty well struggled last year. One of his worst games was against Darren Waller and the Raiders, giving up 120 yards to Waller through the air. He's just not that great of a player. He's been better in the past. When it comes to amongst all three of their main starting safeties, he was just almost as good, graded as well as Bobby McCain, but he was over Eric Rowe, so he was right in the middle. None of these guys were above average. So one thing is Jones only got to play that 37% of the snaps. So that's not a lot to grow as a rookie. Plus, let's keep that in mind. He did as good or better than Rowe, and it was his rookie season. So, we had the COVID and everything else. So I really liked this kid last year. I didn't expect him to break out unless he had the opportunity from injury, but he still achieved a lot for just what he did last year as the third safety. 62 combined tackles is nothing to sneeze at. There are players that play a full-time role in their defensive scheme. The 62 combined tackles is good for them. Not saying that's comparable to somebody that we want to go get, like a linebacker or something, but I'm just trying to say that it's not bad at all. It's definitely above average when he's making a play every sixth play that he's out there. Here's how. Now you're going to ask, well, what about Eric Rowe and Bobby McCain? Okay, so from what I understand, the Dolphins are in some sort of really tight cap hell to where they are going to need money to sign their rookie draft class and take care of at least one or two players. And when you have Eric Rowe, who, I want to say that Miami showed they don't have a problem letting a second-year player that they just signed from last year go when they let Kyle Van Noy go out of the blue not long ago for a cap reason. And Eric Rowe, if they let him go, which is also a Patriot throw-off like Kyle Van Noy to help this defense, they would save him $5 million. So, and then Bobby McCain, if they cut him, it would save them $7 million. So there is some money here with them tight against the cap. There's some opportunity there that it wouldn't be surprising if one of those two is released over as soon as 48 hours could happen. But again, they have until June 1st. So, this could happen down the road too, and might not necessarily happen, but this is a way for him to get directly on there and us feel comfortable about him getting on there sooner than later. If they do not cut either one of these players, we could still see they really like Jones. They like Jones. They took him in the 3rd round last year. He's out of Texas, I believe. And he did well. He did really well when he got the chance to play. He played like a rookie, of course, but he showed upside and potential. And he outplayed Eric Rowe and played as good as Bobby McCain. So if he had gotten more snaps, we probably wouldn't have this conversation right now. So we'll see what the Dolphins do, but he is my DB breakout for 2021. A couple things have to happen, but, that's how things go. All right, so we're going to move on to my next guy is Jarrad Davis, the linebacker, former Lion. He is now signed with the Jets. Now, we don't have a lot to throw out about him except for the fact that he was at one time the Lions' first round selection, I believe 4 or 5 years ago. He didn't do all that hot his first season, but we're talking about the Lions here, folks. They've been dysfunctional on that defense for a while, and it didn't help when all of a sudden Patricia took over and just ran that defense into the ground again. And apparently Davis fell out of favor with them. He's got a clean slate. He's going to the Jets. The Jets have another group of coaches, and he's got a new kind of an organization to impress. There's nobody on that depth chart except for C.J. Mosley that could give him any problems. Which there's room on there for 2 starting inside linebackers. Now, am I saying that Jarrad Davis is going to be a big knockout? I think that he is probably more of a redraft for this year. He's probably looking at potentially upper linebacker 2 type numbers, depending what your tiers are. It's hard to trust C.J. Mosley, so this could actually escalate even faster or better. One of the indications that the Jets seem to really have something that they want from him is they signed him quickly after the free agency opened, and they signed him for $7 million to join the Jets for the season. And I know $7 million doesn't seem, it's kind of in a mediocre range, but this year with the way the cap situation is on teams, that's a decent payday for him, for a guy that's coming off that technically most people were expecting to be a depth guy. So they usually don't pay depth guys that kind of money. So I really like Jarrad Davis's chances. I'm thinking that low linebacker 2. Dynasty-wise, I don't know if I would go and expect him to be more than a plug-and-play until we see him get through this year as a redraft guy. So, if you're in a dynasty league and it's really deep, go ahead and grab him and stash him. There's a lot of potential here. We've seen this happen before in the past. But there is a new regime. They're going to be running the same 3-4. And I'm thinking that I'm going to take a flyer myself on Davis. I really like his landing spot with the Jets. The last guy I have is a DL. So I had 1 DB, I got 1 inside linebacker, and I got 1 edge rusher. It just happens to be a DL this year. I overextended myself last year. I'm not doing that this year. I'm just going to go with the 3. I've been on it. I've talked about it the last few weeks in a few of our lives and podcasts. Taekwon Lewis of the Colts. He's in his final year of his rookie season. He was drafted, or rookie contract. He was drafted in 2018 in the 2nd round. He spent something like 9 weeks his rookie season. I don't know if it was all during the season, but 9 weeks on the IR with a foot problem. I believe he had some other injury issues his sophomore year. He's never made one of the full-time starters on that defensive line, but I believe that's going to change this year. Last year in 4 games, he played 40%. 4 games he started, he played 40% of the snaps. He only played 15% on the special teams. So by the numbers, when I looked all this up, he basically made a play every 9 plays that he was out on the field. For a defensive lineman that is restricted completely on one end of the field normally, or one side of the field, that is actually really, it's just above average. In comparison, to let you know, when you crunch the numbers, and we're just talking combined tackles for losses, and QB hits, which are what we look for with defensive linemen as base material to work with. Myles Garrett, which was a complete stud last year, he was making a play every 8.5 plays that he played. I'm going to correct myself. Taekwon actually was more around 9.5. I apologize. But that is still, believe me, anything that's in under 11, 10.5, 11 is average. So he did really well with his limited play. This year, his situation is as of right now, Justin Houston is not re-signed with them. He plays an outside linebacker type role, edge rusher anyways. But the only other defensive lineman that I think that could give him any competition, which is highly unlikely, is Muhammad, who has been there forever and never amounted to anything since signing with them. They actually released him at one point at this offseason and re-signed him for a cheaper amount. Every indication is that Lewis right now is going to get his chance. They're expecting more out of him. And last year they used him in a rotation where he did play some inside, but he played a lot of the outside. He got 4 sacks, 24 combined. I think it was like 8 tackles for loss and 6 QB hits. And considering that I believe it was only about 415 snaps, that's pretty good for a defensive lineman. He's going to have a chance to break out this year. If they get him on the field, they give him one of the prime blind spots to rush from, and he's looking to get paid. So I'm looking at this as, hey, I'm not going to go overboard. He's going to do better than he did last year. All these players are going to do better in my breakout calls. Just breakouts does not mean they're going to be a top 3 guy in their category. That means that they're going to break out. They're going to be noticeable. They're going to be serviceable for IDP in one form or another. I'm thinking that Lewis could hit that upper DL2. I know there are non-believers out there, but again, we're reaching deep. We are reaching deep here. These aren't guys that you're going to necessarily take in your first flyer or first maybe guys off the board. These are guys that are pretty deep. So, just keep an eye on them. Add them if you can. I'm thinking that Lewis can get that DL2 mark potentially and make a decent year for himself. And more for a redraft than a dynasty. I'm going to put him in there with Davis and say we need to see it this year for dynasty purposes. If I did not mention it when I was talking about Brandon Jones, I think he's a complete dynasty pickup, deep. And, if he doesn't break out this year, Eric Rowe, I believe, is in his last year. If he's not released, I also believe McCain is in his last year, possibly, of his contract. And the older players, they could all be released. Done with my 2021 breakouts for IDP purposes for fantasy football. And I really appreciate you checking this out. And if this does any of us any good, hey, I love it. I love what we do, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you.